Siman Yud, the 10th Siman of Shulchan Aruch. Dinei knafot hatalit uvo Yud bet tzipid. The laws of the corners of the talit. Until now we did the strings. Now we're moving in the corners, and there are 12 halachot in this section.
By the end of 6 months, we'll be at the neck of the.
We're on our way, Bear. We're moving quite fast, I would say.
Yeah.
And Jack, we're going to need your English in the second halakha because
I'm trying to see. This is chapter
10. If we're ahead of you, though, we might be in trouble. Let's do the first halakha. Talit she'en arba knafot. If you have clothing that does not have 4 corners, ptura, you don't. It's exempt from the tzitzit. So most of the clothing, or all of the clothing that you're wearing right now, doesn't have 4 corners, and therefore it's patur. Yesh la yoter mi'arba chayevet. Maran says, what if it has 5 corners? Or 6 corners? Is it exempt from tzitzit also? Or anything more than 4? Is it only 4 is obligated tzitzit? Or anything more than 4 and up is obligated? Maran says, chayevet. 4 and up require
greater than
tzitzit.
equal to 4.
Yes.
So a 5-cornered garment, a 6-cornered garment.
Would need tzitzit, according to Maran.
But I'm trying to picture a 6-cornered garment. Or a 5-cornered.
It's hard enough to picture a 4-cornered.
You know those jesters in Europe they show with those.
Oh, yeah.
So like a
Wait, it gets better than what you're thinking. It gets
Or
better.
it's like Star Wars clothing, where it's kind of stiff, but it has those.
Chayevet, it's obligated in tzitzit. V'oseh la'arba tzitziot be'arba knafeha. You make 4 tzitziot on the 4 corners hameruchakot zo mizo yoter, which are furthest away from each other. So a 6-cornered clothing does not have 6 tzitziot on it. It has 4 tzitziot on it, and it's 4 main corners.
Wow. I'll draw a picture of that.
Wrap your mind around that one.
Hexagon.
Yeah, okay, imagine such a thing. You choose the 4 corners that are the furthest away from each other, and those would be your 4 tzitziot.
Depends on where you start.
It's kind of hard to
Start
think
with
what
these
these.
2.
Yeah, very good. So I guess it would also wear how you wear it. Depends how you wear it. I'm not familiar with such an article of clothing. So
Yeah, I mean,
we're
what would
dealing
be
here in
such an
theory.
that's what I wonder about. What kind of clothing are they talking
Yeah.
about?
What would be 6-cornered garment?
seconds.
We now are inviting our guest
Seconds.
speaker, Isaac Mizrahi.
And
I'll give you an example. Imagine you wore a vest, not a vest, like a tzitzit. You know the tzitzit you wear?
Yeah.
But it was a fancy kind of tzitzit, and it had a split in the front and a split in the back. Yeah, you automatically added 4 more corners to it.
Yeah.
It would be 8.
Are you envisioning what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you'd only still need 4 tzitzit because you put them on the farthest corner.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but you might say, hey, listen, now I have an 8-cornered garment. It doesn't need tzitzit. And there's no, because you have a 4-cornered garment, you need to have tzitzit on
So
it.
the key is having 4 stam basic corners.
Yes.
And no matter how many, anything above that, you still have the 4 corners, but you don't have to have 8, 10, 12.
Very good, very good. So let's see what it says in the Halakha Bua. The middle of the page. Talit sheyesh la pachot mi'arba knafot. A talit that has less than 4 corners, ptura min tzitzit. It's exempt from tzitzit.
I thought a talit has to have 4 corners.
Very good. Talit, when he uses the word talit, he just means clothing.
Oh.
In original Hebrew, talit refers to any article. Your shirt is a talit. Your pants are talit. Any kind of clothing is talit. Yeah, and so we've used our talit in a there's a word for it as like
way.
the talit. You know,
Yeah.
that's what we refer to. But anything is a talit. And tzitzit is not the small tzitzit. Tzitzit is always used as string. The strings of your tzitzit.
Yeah.
So you would call the small clothing you wear tzitzit, but really it's not true. This is a talit katan, small talit with tzitziot. And that's a big talit with tzitziot. ואפילו היו לטלית 4 כנפות. What if you have clothing that has 4 corners? וחתכה, now you cut it, באופן שעתה אין לה 4 כנפות. In a way that it now no longer has 4 corners, אלא 3. It only has 3. Give me an example.
Or you can have a cloak that had 4 and then you decide to cut one, so you just have like 1 piece down the back and 2 down the front.
Explain.
I don't have a...
Let's say it again. Just explain to me what you're...
If you cut off, if you have a 4-cornered garment and then you slice off 1/2, actually it could be like a, you put it over your head.
Give me a simpler scenario.
I'm trying to, but you have a pencil, I can draw a picture.
What if I round the corner of my talit?
Oh, that's simpler, yeah.
So it's 3 corners and 1 round corner. A round part is not a corner. You want to do a trick?
Right angle.
Don't tell anybody. If you ever see a Litvish Rosh Yeshiva or a Chabad rabbi, because they wear the same Shabbat robe. I don't know if you know that. Litvish Rosh Yeshivas and Chabad rabbis wear the same robes. Ask. Don't do it without asking. Okay? Ask. May I please see the back of your robe? You will find that they have an overlapping flap in the back. Yeah? The underneath flap is rounded. Because if it wasn't, they would be wearing a 4-cornered robe that would require tzitziot.
Okay, here's a picture.
Are you talking like the...
See, I put the slashes where you cut off one
I understand.
wing of it, and then you flip it around your head, so you have 2 in the front and 1 in the back.
Okay, this is another example. Do I have... Let me show you my coat. I'll explain to you what I mean.
If you wear more than 1 4-corner garment, you got to have tzitzit on each one.
Yes. Not on each one. On 4 out of... Anything more than 4 still has 4 tzitziot on the 4 remote corners.
So that's why this coat from Crown Heights doesn't have a slit at the back. Or you would have to have tzitzit.
Oh, very good. Wait. So you see this?
Ventless.
This coat has 1 corner, 2 corners, 3 corners, and 4 corners. So why is this not obligated in tzitziot? You're going to see later on, in order to require tzitzit, the split has to be up the majority of the clothing. Not every little tear in your clothing warrants a tzitzit. It doesn't create a corner. The Chabad robes, or the Litvish or Shiva robes, are split pretty much until the waist.
Okay.
And because of that, they have to round one of the corners. You'll notice that other robes, for example, what I wear on Shabbat, or the Hasidic ones, you have 2 options. Either they're sewn all the way down the back, which makes it a little bit less comfortable, but then you're only left with 2 corners.
Especially.
Yeah. Or they split it like this. This is not a Jewish robe. This is a Calvin Klein or something. Burlington Coat Factory. But it's split up not high enough in order for you to be required to wear tzitzit. Now this is the kind of thing that most people wouldn't think about. Does my winter coat or my raincoat, do they require tzitzit on them? They might, depending on how high the split is and if the corners are square or they're round.
The rain would get in.
Okay, if it's too split, then the rain would get. Okay, that's true.
So when you go shopping, you're thinking of these things.
Yeah, it's not so practical. Now you do, yes. The halachot, every detail. You know, we've learned even how you go to the bathroom according to halakha. These are who thought of halakha in the bathroom. Now you do.
There are clothing stores where all the clothing.
You were going to ask
Yeah,
something?
so the question
In
is,
New York, like there's a store called Hasid Clothing in the Lower East Side. It's just that kind of clothing.
so the question I had, which
You need a gift card?
maybe I make myself clear, is if you wear tzitzit underneath, you wear tali katan, and then you wear this coat with 4 corners. I thought the tali katan would cover the whole idea of wearing tzitzit. You would be wearing tzitzit. Why-
Very good. Jack, that's a good question. You might have been out of town that week that we did. This is a good question that you asked. What if you wear one tzitzit that has tzitzit on it, strings, and then you wore another 4-corner garment? Does that tzitzit you're wearing underneath exempt the next 4-corner garment?
I would say
The answer is no, right?
It may
No.
exempt you from saying the bracha on the next one.
Okay, very good. It might exempt you from saying the bracha. That was when David was here. Remember that, those halachot? But, this is important. Every mitzvah in the world, you have to ask yourself, this is a brisker question. Okay, is it a chovat mana or a chovat gavra? Is the obligation on the article of clothing, or is the obligation on the person wearing the clothing?
It's obviously on the clothing.
Well, you can make a good case either way.
Yeah.
Because if you have a four-corner garment sitting in a drawer, it doesn't need tzitziot on it. I mean, it's not a mitzvah on the clothing. On the other hand, just because you are already wearing tzitziot doesn't exempt you from any other kind of clothing that goes on top of you. So it's an interesting in between, and you'll find the rabbis do fight about this halakha a little bit. But that's a good question, and it does not exempt. Every mitzvah in the world, you're going to have to ask this question. The blowing of shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Is it that a shofar needs to be blown, or does a person need to blow the shofar? The difference? What if you made a shofar blowing machine? Does that count? If the shofar needs to be blown, then yeah, it counts. Or is it that a person needs to blow the shofar? Then you are the one who needs to blow the shofar. Every mitzvah in the world, you're going to find this back and forth. Is it an obligation on you, or is it an obligation on... So for example, a house. Does a house require mezuzot? Or does the person living in the house need to put up mezuzot? The answer?
The person living in
Very
the
good.
house.
And that's why you only put up mezuzot when you move into the house, not when you build the house. So that's a classic case of if you were not... Nobody, it's an abandoned house. You're not living in the house. You don't have to go up and start putting up mezuzot everywhere. There's not a house that's occupied by somebody. And it's for that reason, and you may not know, that there are poskim that say that a synagogue doesn't need mezuzot. Because nobody lives here. Some would say that's a very rigid definition of what living means. Using a space might be good. Using a space might be considered. Usually, the reason why many synagogues started having mezuzot is because the Ezrat Nashim, which in the olden days was not in the synagogue, it was like a secondary room that had a window opening to the synagogue. It's where the ladies would pray. That room was considered. You can't sleep in a synagogue, but you are allowed to sleep in the Ezrat Nashim because there was no Torah in there. There were no. It was just it was like a room adjacent to the synagogue. Many people, the poor people, when they would come to town, the community would let them sleep in the ladies section of the synagogue, because from Shabbat till Shabbat, really the ladies weren't there, and it became okay. So now the synagogue became a place where people live. Today, people eat in the Beit Knesset. Today, all kinds of things that we do in the Beit Knesset that didn't used to be done in a Beit Knesset, and that's why the laws of mezuzot are different. But every mitzvah in the world, you have to ask: is this a mitzvah on the object, or is it a mitzvah on the person? And very often, you'll get different answers. For example. And I don't know that I'm right halachically, but a thought. I have to look it up properly. When you build a house, there's two mitzvot that are in the same level of urgency when you build a house. One is putting up mezuzot. The second, it's in the Torah. Putting up a ma'akeh. Putting up a railing on your roof. Now, this is a mitzvah in the Torah. It's one of the 613 commandments. That you cannot have a roof that people could, God forbid, fall to their death from. And whenever you have a space, it doesn't make a difference anywhere in your property that someone could get hurt on. It doesn't just have to be on the roof. It could be a window. How many stories you hear children falling out of windows? There's a mitzvah in every place to put up. It's a biblical commandment. It's like a mezuzah. You must, there's a blessing you say. You must put up something, a barrier that makes sure that people don't fall over, God forbid. Anywhere that you go. So, for example, when they built this building, and this building was built by Jews, when they put that railing up, I know it's not up to 2016 standards, I know, but when they put that railing up, there was a mitzvah, there was a blessing they were supposed to say when they did that, because that was a mitzvah, to make sure that people don't fall from the... Really, you could build a building without a railing. Who needs a railing? People should be careful. But the halakha is that you have to make sure that no blood is on your hands when you build a property. And that, you could argue, is a mitzvah, perhaps, on the building, not on the person, if a person's only living in it or not. That's already, you build a structure, you have to make sure the structure is safe. And there are many more halachot that might not fit into the biblical interpretation of this mitzvah, but into a very, definitely a rabbinic understanding, which is making sure that any space that you have is safe for the people who are inside of it, is a mitzvah from the Torah. Hashem should let us fulfill all the mitzvot from the Torah.